Hi, welcome to Grammar Compass with Sir Victor. Let us master English language together. Kindly reach out to us via our social media handles on the screen.
In our previous lesson, we talked about objects. If you haven't watched that video, kindly do so. In this lesson, we are going to talk about complement function. We are going to talk about subject complements and then object complements. Remember we said that an object suffers from an action. Therefore, before we get an object, there must be an action word in the sentence. If there is no action word in the sentence or there is no transitive verb in the sentence, then we can't have an object. What about complements? What is the meaning of a complement? A complement is the clause element that refers back to another element mentioned in the sentence. A complement does not suffer from an action. Rather, it refers back to another element that was mentioned in the sentence. That is the difference between a complement and an object. Whilst the object suffers, the complement does not suffer. It refers back to an element that was mentioned in a sentence. For example, the girl became a nurse. We have the girl as subject, became a verb. Is this an action word? Is it a transitive verb? No. So this cannot be an object. A nurse refers back to the girl we are talking about. Who is a nurse in this sentence? It is the girl. The girl is who in this sentence? A nurse. Therefore, a nurse refers back to the girl. It is playing the role of a complement. It is not suffering from an action. There is no action. Become is not an action. Therefore, a nurse is not an object. It refers back to the girl. It becomes the complement of the girl. Another one, Kwame is a footballer. Who is a footballer? Kwame. So a footballer refers back to Kwame, and we don't have any action word. Is not an action word. Therefore, a footballer refers back to Kwame. It is a complement. The man is sad. This is an adjective, and it comes after a verb that is not an action word. Therefore, sad refers back to the state of the man. It is a complement. So we have an SVC. The country voted him a president. Now over here, we have our subject, the country. Voted, our verb, but it is an action word. Him is receiving the action or suffering from the action, voted. So it becomes our object. And a president refers back to the object, which is him. So this becomes the complement of the object. Over here, who is the president? It is him. Therefore, a president here is not suffering from any action. It just refers back to the object. So it is a complement. And him is the object because it suffers from the action voted. We named Gideon our leader. We, subject, named our verb, which is a transitive verb. Whom did we name? Gideon. It suffers from the action, so it is our object. Our leader refers back to Gideon. And what did we say about complements? They refer back to another element. Therefore, our leader refers back to another element, which is our object, so it becomes a complement. The world is a stage. What is a stage over here? The world. Therefore, a stage is a complement because it refers back to our subject. The message was that we should sleep. What was the message? That we should sleep. So that we should sleep refers back to the message. So this is a clause functioning as our complement because it refers back to the message and there is no action word. From these examples, we can see that some of the complements refer back to the subjects and some of them refer back to the objects in the sentence. Therefore, we have two types of complements, the subject complement and the object complement. Let us take them one after the other. As we saw earlier in the previous slide, the subject complement can be a noun phrase, a clause or an adjective, and it should refer back to the subject. There is also something important that you need to know. It is that the subject complement must follow a linking or a copular verb and not a transitive or action word. Therefore, if you have a subject complement, then there will be no action word in the sentence. The verbs in the sentence must be a linking or a copular verb so that the noun phrases, clauses or adjectives that come after those verbs will refer back to their subjects. That is what we mean by a subject complement, the complement that refers back to the subject. And these phrases, clauses or adjectives must come after a linking verb. What are some of these linking verbs? Some of them are the be verbs: is, am, are, was, were, been, being. So whenever a noun phrase, a clause or an adjective follows the word is, it is a complement. It will become a complement. For example, I am a boy. A boy becomes a complement. They are girls. Girls will function as a complement because they come after a linking verb. So subject complements come after linking verbs. So if you don't see a linking verb, don't think about a subject complement. Other linking verbs are smell, feel, appear, stay, taste, become, feel, sound, remain, seem, keep, stand, feel, appear, turn, prove, go, grow. So whenever noun phrases, clauses or adjectives come after these linking verbs, they will function as the subject complement and not an object. So take note. It depends on the type of verb that we have in the sentence. If we have a linking verb, then the elements that will come after it will become a complement. But if we have a transitive verb, they will become an object. Let us look at noun phrases as subject complements. For example, this is she. Over here, she is a pronoun and it refers back to the subject this, and it comes after a linking verb. Therefore, she is our subject complement. We have our subject SVC. The second one, the man became a doctor. A doctor refers back to the man, so it means that it is a subject complement and it comes after a linking verb. This is not an action verb. If we say the man killed a doctor will not function as a complement because we had changed the verb. But since it is coming after a linking verb, a doctor becomes a complement. So we would have the man as subject, became our verb, and a doctor our complement. And what complement is that? A subject complement, because a doctor refers back to the subject. The last person was Ernest. Who is the last person in this sentence? Ernest. Ernest is who? Last person. Therefore, Ernest refers back to the subject. Subject complement. So we will have SVC. And look at the kind of verb that we have. It is not an action word. It is a linking verb. So whenever you see linking verbs and there are noun phrases, clauses or adjectives after them, they will function as complements and not objects. The last one, I am your friend. Here we have our noun phrase functioning as a subject complement because your friend refers back to I and it comes after a linking verb. These are noun phrases, nouns and pronouns functioning as a subject complement. What about an adjective that functions as a subject complement? Let us have these examples. The boy looks very handsome. Very handsome is the complement because it comes after a linking verb, and it is an adjective phrase because it contains a degree adverb which modifies the adjective. So whenever you have an adverb of degree modifying an adjective, together they will perform one function. The boy looks very handsome. We have our SVC. My neighbor seems nice. We have SVC. I was interested. We have SVC. These are all adjectives. My neighbor seems nice. So nice here is referring back to the state of my neighbor. Therefore, it is a subject complement and it is an adjective. This means that adjectives or adjective phrases can perform the role of complements. The entire team grew extremely tired. So the extremely tired refers back to the state of the entire team. Therefore, it is a subject complement. And check the verb over here. This is not a transitive verb. It doesn't require an object. It is a linking verb. So this is a complement. Mosquitoes are very annoying. Are is a linking verb and we have an adjective phrase. It comes after a linking verb, so it will function as our complement. He remained calm. Remain is a linking verb, so calm will function as our complement. The students appeared worried. Appear is a linking verb, therefore worried becomes our complement and it is an adjective. The music sounds good. What sounds good? The music. Therefore, good refers back to the sound of the music, so it is our complement and it is an adjective. Let us see clauses functioning as subject complements. This will also give us an SVC sentence pattern. For example, the problem is, who will take care of my children? What is the problem? Who will take care of my children? So the whole of this, who will take care of my children, refers back to the problem. It is the problem. Therefore, it is a subject complement. We have our subject S, our verb the, a linking verb, and we have a clause, an interrogative clause, which is referring back to the problem. So it becomes our subject complement. The point was why they should believe him. What was the point? Why they should believe him. Why they should believe him was the point. So it refers back to the subject. Therefore, we have a whole clause functioning as our subject complement. My concern is what made him eat the food. What was my concern? What made him eat the food? What made him eat the food was my concern. Therefore, what made him eat the food is a clause functioning as a subject complement. SVC. The best thing is to move to London. What is the best thing? To move to London. Therefore, to move to London is the best thing. It refers back to the subject, a subject complement, and is a linking verb. Subject complements always follow linking or copular verbs and not transitive verbs. The next one, what we need to do now is to find accommodation. What we need to do now is what? To find accommodation. To find accommodation refers back to what we need to do now. So it refers back to the subject. Therefore, this is a true infinitive clause functioning as our subject complement, SVC. What he likes is singing his favorite songs. Singing his favorite songs is what he likes. Therefore, the whole of this participial clause is functioning as our subject complement. Now that we know subject complements, what about object complements? If subject complements refer back to the subject, what about object complements? This is the element that refers back to the object in the sentence. Therefore, while subject complements refer back to the subject, the object complement will refer back to the object. It means we must have an object in a sentence before we can get an object complement, because that complement will refer back to the object. Let's have these examples. They voted Alvin the president. They is our subject. Voted is a transitive verb. It is an action. And who received this action or who suffered from the action? It was Alvin. Therefore, Alvin becomes our object. The president refers back to Alvin. Therefore, the president becomes our object complement because it refers back to Alvin, which is our object in the sentence. So object complements will always refer back to the object of the sentence. So our pattern will be SVOC. Before you can get an object complement, these verbs are normally used. Let us look at some of these verbs. We have verbs like consider, name, elect, make, appoint, declare, nominate, choose, and many others. So whenever there are such verbs in a sentence, then it is likely that you will get an object complement. These verbs are transitive verbs, and objects will come after them, and there is the likelihood to get a complement after the objects that will come after these verbs. So the same elements that can function as a subject complement can function as an object complement. They consider Mercy a good friend. They are subject. Consider a transitive verb. Whom do they consider? Mercy, an object. A good friend refers back to Mercy. Therefore, we have an object complement. They declare the woman fit. They are subject. Declare are verb. The woman, our object. Fits, our complement, because it refers back to the state of the woman. They made the teacher very angry. So these are adjectives functioning as object complements because they refer back to the state of the objects. So they is our subject. Made is our transitive verb. The teacher suffers from the action make. Therefore, it is our object. And very angry becomes our complement. They made the teacher what? Very angry. So very angry refers back to the teacher. He finds the book interesting. He is our subject, finds our verb, the book our object. Interesting refers back to the book. Therefore, it is functioning as our object complement because book is an object in this sentence. We appointed her the new secretary. We is our subject, appointed our verb, her our object, the new secretary our object complement. Therefore, we have an SVOC pattern. Now that you can identify subjects and object complements, and also objects, direct and indirect, let us solve these questions to end our lesson. The teacher punished a doctor. What is the pattern? It is SVO because punish is an action or a transitive verb. The teacher became a doctor. Over here, we have the same sentence but a different verb. Therefore, become is not an action word. A doctor in this sentence will function as our complement because become is a linking verb. So the verb that you have in the sentence will determine the element that comes after it. So check whether you have an action word or a linking verb before you write a complement or an object. My friend has sent a gentleman. Send is an action word. Therefore, a gentleman becomes our object. My friend was a gentleman. Was is a linking verb. A gentleman becomes our complement. I bought the girls some gifts. Bought is an action word. So, the girls and some gifts will be objects. So, we have two objects here. This is the direct object and this is the indirect object. So, what will be the sentence pattern? SVOO. I knew he was lying. What did I know? He was lying. Therefore, we have an SVO because he was lying is suffering from the action knew. We elected Kwame our chairman. We is our subject, right? Elect is a transitive verb. Therefore, Kwame becomes an object. But what about our chairman? It refers back to Kwame. Can you guess the role of this? It is a complement. You are right. So we have an SVOC pattern. Last one. We made the neighbors very worried. Made is a transitive verb. So the neighbors becomes our object. Very worried, our object complement. I brought chairs for the kids. I, our subject, brought a transitive verb, which means chairs is our object. And then we have someone that is receiving the object. It is benefiting from the action brought. Do you remember? It is our indirect object and it has appeared in the form of a prepositional phrase. So we have an SVOO. Congratulations! In our next lesson, we will look at adjunct function.